Good morning, everyone. My name is Isaac. Thank you for coming along to this session on Cyber Insurance 101, what you need to know. I'm ADM's resident speaker on all things Microsoft, but today I won't be giving the presentation. We actually have a brilliant guest speaker, Anna Wilkinson from One Stop Insurance, and she's going to give you a talk on cyber insurance. If you do have any questions during the presentation, please do put it in the Q&A chat. You can access this by clicking the chat button on the right-hand side, and we'll answer any questions at the tail end of the talk. So I do just want to quickly touch on who ADM are before passing this across to Anna. So we're a multi-award winning technology services company based in Canterbury, serving the southeast of the UK and now further beyond. And we always seek to understand the challenges that our clients face and resolve them with the use of IT. We've now been doing that successfully for over 37 years. You can see on the timeline scrolling through on the right there. We work with customers in various sectors, including professional practices, manufacturers, charity, logistics, education, and more. We usually find the majority of our clients fall between 15 to 150 IT users, and we have over 75 members of staff now, 3/4 of whom are involved in technical service delivery teams. And every day, over 7,500 users across 500 customers rely on us for their critical IT support. And many of our clients have been with us now for over 20 years. So we've come a long way since we established ourselves, and a lot's changed since then, but we're proud to uphold our excellent standards of customer service and expertise. I'm now going to pass over to our special guest presenter, as mentioned, Anna from One Stop Insurance, to tell you more about the ever-changing world of cyber insurance.
Thank you, Isaac. So I thought I would start with a bit of an icebreaker, because I am sure that we have seen these sort of things online before. And it highlights really just how easily we are giving out our personal data. So some stats for you. 39% of people have their pets' names in their passwords. 75% of people say their passwords are frustrating. 43% have shared their password with someone. 59% use their name or their birthday in their password. 52% reuse the same password for multiple accounts. And a 2019 survey by Google said that 24% have ABC123 or password, or 123456 as a password. So if you're sharing this sort of thing online, you really need to consider how that data is going to be used. Next slide, please, Isaac. So about me, I am with One Stop Insurance. I'm the relationship director. I'm 14 years into my insurance career. I started by selling home and car insurance and worked my way up into commercial lines and, of course, now cyber insurance. Last year, I was nominated for the Inspiring Women Award in business, and I have worked for BBC Question Time, and I work on some really interesting cases in my career. I get some work with some really interesting customers, and we insure some very unique items. Oh, sorry, if we can go back, Isaac. So One Stop were founded in the early 90s, and we specialise in church and charity insurance and commercial and professional indemnity. We're customer service focused. And why cyber? Well, this product was born a while ago now in the insurance industry, but initially it didn't really cover anything else that antivirus didn't. So, you know, the viruses that came up, cyber insurance said, well, we'll insure them, but if you had good virus protection, they're already going to be prevented. So it was a case of making sure really that that there was a bit more cover available. So some claims examples. If anyone's had a web call in the last 3 years, which I think is probably likely, you may be familiar with certain different web platforms for video calls. This particular one made a claim on their cyber insurance for user accounts being breached, which is the importance, of course, of using different passwords. The web call was not validating and protecting their users, and they lost over 500 million usernames and passwords. The biggest exposure was people who hacked into the Prime Minister at the time, his meeting, and I believe that came to an £84 million claim. In December 19, this particular web platform went from 10 million users daily to 300 million users by April 2020. So it's no real surprise that the data protection was slipping a little. But there were the following implications. Financial, not just for the platform, but for its users. Operational, having to invest in better security. Compliance, of course. Penalties were levied by the regulators. The GDPR, of course. Did you know that the ICO charged between £40 and £2,900 to investigate a breach of a GDPR complaint? And of course, the reputational damage. Many organisations since banned this particular platform. Now, our chap in the corner with his face in the laptop. So the company that provided, there was a company that provided back office accountancy support, and they were installing MFA, multi-factor authentication, on their company computers and laptops, and an employee left a laptop on a train. This particular laptop was 7 days away from its MFA install. The hacker accessed the wider network. The hacker upgraded the administration permissions and encrypted the whole system. He sent a ransom to the client, and the client went to a very large IT organisation rather than contacting the cyber insurance, which was the first mistake, because this delayed things. The cyber system forensics were then required because it had gone that little bit further. The ransom was for £2 million. The additional costs and delay due to the business being down was another £1 million. MFA would have prevented this. And it would have been the difference between an £800 insurance claim for a laptop replacement and a £3 million claim for a cyber attack. MFA, so I will come to this a little bit later as well, but why would MFA have prevented that? Well, because the second device authentication would have stopped the hacker and acted as a notification of the event if the device was asked. So the device would have asked for further permissions, but as I say, I'll get to that later. Our last claims example is a hairdresser. I suppose you're thinking if a hairdresser, a mobile hairdresser at that, was to be hacked, it probably wouldn't cost too much. Well, a lady last year had her iPad compromised. She stored all of her client info on this iPad, the appointments, the banking, QuickBooks, her website, her social media, everything down to die numbers and colour details on allergies and things. So it was really inconvenient when it got hacked. She selected a link from a phishing email posted, which was posted from the DVLA. It's worth saying at this time that the DVLA don't actually email you about such things. But ransomware was installed and it locked the whole device down. She had no idea who was coming in for appointments. She couldn't even access her social media to let people know. She contacted her cyber insurance, who helped contact all of her clients. They covered the business interruption and helped restore the device. That particular claim came to £500,000. It's a really good example of how much it can actually cost you when these events happen. Phishing is the most likely cause of a cyber insurance claim. Next slide, please. Thank you. So hot off the press in some sort of way. We'll all be familiar with the Suez Canal blocking, which cost the economy $400 million an hour. There is no real definite as to what happened here. There hasn't been a final response as to what happened in the overall event of what caused this, but it is potentially being investigated, or may potentially be investigated as being a cyber breach. There's a lot of potential for cyber to go terribly wrong, and if this was indeed a cyber event, that would demonstrate just the size of these matters. Next slide, please. So what is cyber insurance? Well, if we think about home insurance first, a lot of us will have homes, and hopefully you've got buildings and or contents insurance on your home, depending on what you need. So you wouldn't purchase home insurance and walk out of your front door and leave it wide open. And this is what we're trying to get the message across for cyber insurance. Some people want to buy cyber insurance as a preventative to having to get really good IT protection, to having to spend lots of money on antivirus or MFA. But actually, it should be in addition to. You pay for alarms on your homes, locks on your doors. Consider your MFA and your antivirus software and your staff training as those precautions. And then when you go out into the world virtually, you're locking your doors and you're making sure that everything's safe. So there's 3 levels of cyber insurance, really. You've got the basic add-on, which is like included within another insurance policy, perhaps your business insurance, your commercial combined. You have this mid-level policy that you can purchase from a lot of well-known insurance companies, and that's really good for SMEs. And perhaps startups if you've got quite a high cyber risk. And then you get the higher, sort of more bespoke policy, which you would probably need a broker to assist you with, and you'd get it from something like Lloyd's of London or direct with one of the much larger insurance companies that perhaps some people are less familiar with. The add-on insurance, if you think of it as like your free breakdown when you buy car insurance, maybe it's only going to cover you within 50 miles from your home address. So really it's just judging what your risk is, what is it that your business is doing, and how much cover do you feel that you need. So reviewing the covers, and this is a very brief overview, there's a very long list of different insurances that you can purchase for your cyber protection. So there's a list there. The one that I've highlighted is business interruption, and the reason that I wanted to bring that up is because it is different in a cyber policy. Your business interruption insurance in a cyber policy is for your cyber, your non-physical risk. If you have business interruption on your commercial combined insurance, you might think that will extend to cyber, but it doesn't, because there has to be a physical occurrence or something else that's affected your current policy, your commercial combined, before the business interruption will kick in. For example, if you had a fire, then you're obviously going to be claiming on your contents because everything's burnt. Then it's going to cause an interruption to your business, and therefore the business interruption element of your policy will pay out. Now, if you come into work and you may as well have had a fire because none of your computers are working because they've all been hacked, that's not going to impact the commercial combined policy in the same way unless you've got that cyber extension. So it's really important that when you're taking out cyber insurance, you're considering each and every factor. Next slide, please. So if we've decided that we are moving past that add-on, that sort of extra feature on your existing policy, then you're probably wondering, where should you look for cyber insurance? So let's talk about how you can buy. Obviously, there are online options. If you feel confident in what you're purchasing, if you feel that you understand your risk, then online might be a good option for you. You've got brokers like myself. Insurance brokers will sit with you and explain, or they should explain what it is that you're buying and make you feel educated about that product. It's a really good place to start if you're not sure what it is that you need. Depending on what sort of product you need, the broker might take it into the Lloyd's market for you. So Lloyd's of London being the biggest provider of insurance in the world. And a fantastic source as well, the source to find insurance that's perhaps a little bit different. If you have a unique business, it's a great place to be. The other thing I would mention is, of course, UK providers. So make sure that when you are purchasing insurance, you're looking at where that's coming from, because it's possible that if it's from overseas, you may not get the support from the FCA or the Financial Ombudsman that you that you may require in the future if you have a claim or if something goes wrong. That's not just cyber insurance, that's all products. So it's really important to consider where your insurance is coming from as well. Next slide, thank you. So the route to market. Now this is really important because it's very easy to think, oh, I'll buy it online and hope for the best, or yeah, you know, I'm vaguely confident that this product is okay, or perhaps you've been asked for cyber insurance in one of your contracts with a client or with a tender. But really, the first thing you need to do when you've decided you want to buy some cyber insurance is be prepared. That really is, as we said about the home insurance, making sure all the locks and bolts are in the right places. So have your IT company perhaps do a quick survey, making sure that everything's okay. There's lots of checklists that you can get. We can supply different checklists for you, making sure that your business is in a good place to purchase cyber insurance. Again, you wouldn't go and buy home insurance if you had no windows in your house. It's making those, what seemingly quite simple preparations to ensure that your business is indeed something that can be insured and ultimately something that a claim will be paid out on. What you also want to avoid is having any insurance declined. So if you present your business to, let's say, the Lloyd's market and they say, no, we're not insuring this business, I'm going to decline this insurance, or indeed if you purchase a policy online, try to make a claim and they decline your policy because you've done something wrong or you've put in some incorrect information unknowingly, it could be that you have to declare for all future insurances that your business buys that you have had insurance declined. That's not something you want to do. So think about how many brokers you're presenting that presentation with. If you're taking that presentation into the Lloyd's of London market, you don't want loads and loads of insurance brokers presenting that to the same insurers over and over again. Your proposal form that you're going to complete, if you're taking it into Lloyd's of London or if you're buying that higher level insurance, you're going to be completing a proposal form. Don't see this as an inconvenience. See it as a job application. You want to present your company in the best possible way. And think about who's completing that proposal form too. It should be your FD, it should be your IT director, or it should be whoever it is that helps with your IT training. Make sure you're involving the right people when you're completing those forms, because it does matter. So the beat does go on, because actually buying insurance for your cyber protection it's not a get out of jail free card. It doesn't stop there. It's something that you're going to have to keep on top of. So keep updating it. Keep up on top of your cybersecurity. Your cyber insurance doesn't mean switch off the stuff that you write on the proposal form. It's got to stay correct, it's relevant, and you want your claims to be paid. They won't if you're not keeping up on top of that security. Just like the basics of GDPR, Cyber Essentials, ISO 27001, you still need to keep the process going. There's no point in all that hard work getting that level, ensuring it, having everything correct, and then leaving it. So it's constant health checks are going to be needed. Check in with your IT providers on what support you can get. Get the support of your insurance broker. See if they can come back in 6 months' time to help you review that. And ask your IT company about random testing. I know ADM do things like phishing and security testing. It's a really great way to make sure that your company is constantly staying the safest it can be. So the best advice for keeping up on top of things, well, did you know that only 54% of companies have a disaster recovery plan? A disaster recovery plan should include your personnel, an IT inventory, backup procedures, disaster recovery procedures, backup sites, equipment, restoration procedures, cyber insurance details. It should have everything on there that you need to make sure that you are equipped. If something happens, you want to be able to reach out and sort it out ASAP. You're going to want your staff to know where that disaster recovery plan is. If someone comes into work and something's happened, you have to know where that is. Know your numbers. Get the IT company's number, the number of the ICO, and the number of your cyber insurance, and have that on the front of your disaster recovery plan and know how to access that. Is it too expensive? That's a good question. It's a question I get asked a lot. A lot of people will prioritise the cost of cyber insurance before anything else. Don't know that I agree with that. If I was to tell you that a solicitor would charge, let's say, approximately £250 an hour as their hourly rate, a cyber insurance consultant, £2,000. Who would you rather pay? So the ICO delays, you have to inform the ICO of a breach within 72 hours. If I was to ask you, do you know how right now? If something happened right now, would you know where to go? ICO fines if you do not report that breach within 72 hours. It's a maximum of 17.5 million or 4% of the worldwide annual turnover in the previous financial year, whichever is higher. It could be up to that amount. So it's seriously worth having those details at the ready, taking that time to put those details in. There's some UK crime stats there. 40% of small businesses and 60% of medium businesses were identified as a cyber breach within the last 12 months. That was taken from the 2021 stats. That's seriously, worth sitting up and considering this now if you haven't already. There is an insurer in 2021 that had all policies with a turnover of over 100,000 who made a claim inquiry or indeed a claim on their cyber insurance policy. So that's all policies. A claim on your cyber insurance policy will cost you more than any cyber policy for you. So to put that into perspective, if your claim on your cyber insurance policy was 500,000, but your policy cost you 200,000, that's quite a saving. Next slide, please. Thank you. Reducing the costs. So a lot of people will ask me, a lot of businesses come and they say, right, well, how can I reduce those costs? We've talked about installing a house alarm on your home insurance for the benefit of your home insurance. Is there something you can do for your cyber? Well, yes, there is. MFA, something you know, like your password, something you have, your fingerprint or your eye recognition, and something something you have like your mobile phone, and something you are like your fingerprint. Those three factors will stop a breach in theory, because nobody can replicate all three with ease. IT company advice, 100% get some advice from your IT company. Find out what they can do. Things like phishing email testing can make a massive difference, because so many of those breaches can be caused by human error, by your staff accidentally clicking on an email or a link that they shouldn't. Regular health checks, those well filled in proposal forms, will give you way more savings than credentials. But don't overdress it. It's not something that you need to spend a lot of money on to try and reduce the cost of the cyber insurance alone. So what is an IT support? A lot of businesses may take reassurance in the fact that they have IT support, and therefore perhaps they don't need cyber insurance. A conversation that I have with IT providers is I recommend that they should tell their clients to buy cyber insurance, because ultimately it's another layer of security, not just for the client, but for the provider as well. So will your IT provider notify the ICO within 72 hours? Will your IT provider give you 24/7, 365-day-a-year support? Notification costs. Will your IT provider be posting all the letters to each client whose data has been compromised? The chances are that you're not going to have your email system because your computers have been hacked. It might be that you have to then actually post letters because the ICO says that you have to notify everybody whose data has been breached. Do you want to pay a solicitor to write them? Or indeed, would your IT provider do that? Will your IT provider give you PR support and perhaps try and embargo any information to the press? Will they help you with ransomware costs? What about business interruption? Yes, they might be able to help with data recovery, but they're going to pay for the costs for that. Things like this where your IT company are great for support, and they're absolutely fantastic in providing that support, but you also need that extra layer of protection just to make sure that those costs are going to be covered as well. So what will happen in a data breach? Well, these are the steps, the 7 steps that the ICO recommend, but obviously your data breaches could be different. Personally, your step 1 and your step 2 should be contact your cyber insurance company and contact your IT support company. So there's a video here on why I say that, and this video is advice on what to do if there's a cyber breach, and it's from Tom Pelham, who is a co-host of Kennedy's Law podcast. And Tom, they have provided this, and it's on YouTube for us to watch, so I'll suggest that we play that now.
You've got to remember that the ICO are increasingly becoming very aggressive. They want to know why it happened, what happened, what are you doing to mitigate the issue. What we're increasingly seeing in terms of problematic issues is too much information being given at the outset. What we typically advise is that the first notification that gets in, which ticks the box for the 72-hour deadline, it needs to be a kind of high-level overview of what's happened. You don't need to start committing yourself to kind of second-guessing what's happened or speculating. Mm-hmm. So what we tend to do is recommend that we do an email notification as opposed to what the ICO tell you to do on the website, which is fill in this horrible form, which forces you to commit to things that you don't yet know. So we tend to keep it nice, high-level, have enough information there so that it constitutes a proper notification, but just give ourselves loads of wriggle room, because we know that in the next 2 weeks we're going to find out a lot more about it. Okay. So that's the main thing, really, not committing, and also taking it seriously as well, because increasingly the ICO want to know that you're taking this seriously and you're demonstrating that you're doing everything you can to protect those impacted, and this won't happen again.
Thank you. So Tom explained there that actually giving less information initially is potentially a better way of reporting that incident to the ICO. You have to report it, yes, of course you do, but you don't necessarily have to put in lots and lots of time straight away in putting all of the information down, information that you just simply won't have. That podcast was done in line with Travellers, who is one of the insurers that we use to provide our cyber insurance. So let's think about the bigger picture here, because it's not just computers, is it? It's an internet of things, and cyber insurance is there for all of it. So it's anything online. It's fridges, watches, fire alarms, bikes, security systems, doorbells, hoovers, cars, lights, everything is online. I have heard of insurance claims for plastic injection molding machines that have been hijacked, and simple changes to the programming of those machines, which meant the plastic just kept getting recycled. That happened all night because the programming hadn't been noticed that it had been changed. And all of a sudden, that's a huge, huge loss to the business. Cyber insurance can protect all of these connections. So the future, what's it going to look like for the cyber insurance market? Do you know the market is still hard? If you look at the higher elements of Lloyd's of London, things like professional indemnity and cyber insurance are on a relatively similar level, and the costs are still relatively high in line with the economy. But things like mortgage insurance protection are starting to come down. Directors and officers costs are starting to soften a little bit. There's signs of PI hopefully softening soon as well. So cyber should follow suit. Some of the larger insurers have built such a great reputation that they are getting overconfident with costs. So if you're with one of those, it may be that you want to check with your broker and have them shop around at renewal. What I would say is that you need a good 6 weeks really to do that, if not longer. The more time that you can provide those new providers that are coming into the market, the better. And as those new providers come into the market, it's going to be a really interesting time to see what happens with those prices and how the costs change. But I suppose it would be important to say that more claims are being made. So however that may seem like a negative because there are more claims going in. Ultimately, that's a good thing because there's more people buying the cover, which means that pot is getting larger. That whole claims pot, in the essence of the insurance money goes in, and the insurance money comes out, and the bigger that pot goes, the more flexible people can be, or the insurers can be with the premiums. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Anna, for that presentation. I will just give people a minute or so, if they do have any questions, to pop it into the Q&A chat. Aside from that, it was a fantastic presentation. I do have one question myself. I mean, wasn't that plastic injection molding machine hack, I think you were telling me, was done by a child or something?
It was.
Yeah,
it was sourced back
concerning.
to a teenager, who had no idea what they were doing or the implication of it, but it was a bit of fun, really. And I think it's quite common with certain groups of teenagers in the tech circles to have a bit of a challenge and see what they can get into, and all too often you see that damage is done, and actually it was never that malicious, other than the fact that it was a bit of a game. So yeah, really concerning.
Very concerning, and again highlights the massive importance of something like cyber insurance as cover. I haven't seen any questions come in so far, which means you've done a brilliant job, and and everyone understands everything. So I'm sure you'll be getting some calls later on today, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming along and watching this presentation this morning. Thank you all for your time. We really appreciate it. We've got the contact details for both Anna at One Stop Insurance and ourselves at ADM as well as an IT MSP. Again, if you have any questions following this session, feel free to pop us over an email or pop Anna over an email or call, and we'll be happy to help. But that's everything. So thank you all once again for coming along.
Thank you.